So my question will be the following. 15 minutes ago, Ivan told us about lack of proper leadership, of statecraft leadership. You say that you are happy that we don't vote for a strong leader and we are just building democracy. So my question to all of you guys is it possible to, to have this big leapfrog which Ukraine needs now, and to gain this long distance and to catch others, just building by democratic, typical for Europe, democratic rules, our stable and consistent day-by-day development? Can we do it without this strong, or probably sometimes even too strong, leadership which probably can gain us or work as a rocket or as a jet? Because in some countries, even in countries you mentioned, they had these strong leaders close to autocratic, who succeeded in some reforms just because they didn't have a strong opposition, or they were they had a lot of leverage, and which sometimes a proper democracy lacks of. So is there a contradiction, or do we really need to rely just on typical democracy or strong leadership, or both? How can you comment on that contradiction?
All right. First, I'd like to make a small difference, but I think it's important, between a strong leader and strong leadership. Okay. A strong leader is one person, and it's always dangerous to put all your hopes in one person, and we see it over and over. Strong leadership is a group of people that have values, that are going to run the country with courage, that are going to take the right decisions, that are going to stand by these decisions, and that are frankly going to be allowed by other people who respect their independence and value that independence to stand by it. And so I don't think there's a contradiction between wanting courageous people, which Ivan is right to want, and not wanting to have one strong leader on which all hopes depend. And so that's, I think, a very important factor. When I look at the results, I like to think that education is a way to get there, because that's where it starts, actually, to build people that have a different mindset, and to build people who value honesty, who value doing the right thing over their own self-interest. So education, I think I could go for that one as well.
Really nice question, a very interesting topic. It is no contradiction, I think, what Francis said and me, which means strong leadership doesn't mean, and I am not thinking even about authoritarian leader. I'm thinking about a leader who will be strong enough to diminish his power and power of the state. That's the reason why I said that liberalization, deregulation, privatization are the most important methods. What does it mean? All these three methods or strategies means reduction of the power of the state, which means reduction of the power of the leader. This is first point. Second point, yes, it is also important not to have only one leader, but I'm afraid that in Ukraine we have problem that your dual constitutional system is creating a lot of problems. A lot of problems because we could see it after Orange Revolution, how it was disaster development. Now, fortunately, the cooperation between president, prime minister, government, and parliament is much better, but still, it is creating problems. And it will create potential problems even if there will be two holy men who will agree on the very, very specific division of their responsibility and power, then people behind them will fight for power and will use this, which means, in my opinion, yes, we have to have leadership, which means to team of leaders, but finally, it has to be one person who is the most responsible and who is leader in this point of view. And this is one of the problems, and it will create, I'm afraid, problems for the future if it will be not changed. I know that this is very difficult to change, but we have to think about, we have to speak about this.
So I want to address directly Slava's affection for developmental dictatorships. Because
it was a provocation.
So I think there are three reasons why this model, which does exist in the world, doesn't apply here in Ukraine. The first is Europe. You can't join Europe by way of some kind of developmental dictatorship. The model of dictatorship is out of fashion in Europe, at least for the time being.
Yes. At least for the time.
The second reason, and it goes back to your question about political culture, I believe there is something like political culture, and I believe that in Ukraine and also in Poland, the political culture is actually very against dictatorship. I mean, the political culture is one of, has always been one of passivity, and then revolt. And so it's very hard to build a dictatorship with that kind of mentality. And I think that is a difference between Ukraine and Russia at the moment, anyway. And the third reason is that you have tried developmental dictatorship in Ukraine already on a small scale, right? If I can be undiplomatic for a moment. I mean, Donetsk, you have tried developmental dictatorship on a small scale. And what happens in Ukraine is that you don't have developmental dictatorship. You have dictatorship which is anti-development, right? So the whole Yanukovych regime in the end was the attempt to extract as much money as possible and move towards a political dictatorship. So I think there are very strong reasons why that model just doesn't apply in this country. What I would stress, agreeing with Ivan, agreeing with Francis, but amplifying a different point, what I would stress is that leadership doesn't take place only at the national level. If you look at the big economic transformations in the United States, in Germany, in Britain, all of the big economic transformations, the leadership was also local, right? At the level of universities, at the level of chambers of commerce, at the level of courts who enforce the rule of law, right? So we should remember that when we're talking about leadership, we're not talking about one person or two people. We're talking about thousands and thousands of people who are leaders at different levels, who take responsibility at different levels, who take ownership at different levels. That's the leadership question.
Дякую. У мене дуже коротке запитання до всіх панелістів. Ви давно працюєте з Україною. Ви залучені надто багато за цей час в українське життя. Ви самі вжили тут такий вираз, політики в суспільстві говорять, що є також політикани і державні діячі. Як часто ви їх останніх зустрічали в урядових комітетах і серед членів громадянського суспільства?
I didn't meet a statement a long time, not only in Ukraine, but in whole Europe.
I'm not sure they're more rare in Ukraine than anywhere else, frankly.
So we still need to find one.